Hello everyone, my name is Reewyn, and today we're covering a topic I'm very excited for, the Romance of Byler. I'm going to go through their entire story, proving that no, Byler will not come out of nowhere. Let's go. 1976. Will Byers has just started kindergarten and is incredibly lonely. At home, his father abuses him, telling him to man up. He feels different. He's all alone until someone comes over. This kid is just as lonely as him, Mike Wheeler. He asks to be friends, and suddenly Will doesn't feel alone anymore. With time, the two begin to grow up, establishing the rule friends don't lie, as two new kids join the group, Dustin and Lucas. Will and Mike never lie to each other. They fight a few times, as kids always do, but they establish a new rule. Whoever drew first blood, hurt the other first, has to apologize. Things are going great, Will and Mike being inseparable until November 6th, 1983. As they finish their games of Dungeons and Dragons, Will still can't lie. He tells Mike, "It was a 7. The Demogorgon got me. Everyone else covered it up, not Will." He'd never lie. That night, Will doesn't come home. He's taken. Mike's world completely changes. He is beside himself. It gets to the point that he goes to look for Will himself. He believes that no one else cares about Will like he does. No one else cares he's missing. It's here he stumbles across a girl in the woods. Elle. He plans to leave her there until she mentions she knows Will. So he takes her home, believing Will is alive. He defends her from his friends, convinced she can help them and find Will. He's ready to even kill whatever has taken Will, at the risk of his own life. Yet, days later, Will's body is dragged from the lake. Will is gone. At first, Mike doesn't believe it. Then he lashes out at the girl. She lied to him. She's a monster. He cycles home crying until his mum embraces him. Will is gone. Until Will's voice comes through, singing his favorite song. He is alive, and Mike won't let go of him now. He does everything he can to save Will. He will find him. When bullies make fun of Will for being queer, he fights back, Elle helping him. He discovers the Upside Down where Will has been trapped. Meanwhile, Mike and Elle share a kiss. Right after Elle thinks they're like siblings. She doesn't understand the concept of love. This has been the most emotional week for both Mike and Elle. They do eventually find Will again as Elle disappears. When they reunite, Mike runs to him, placing his head on Will's chest to hear his heartbeat before embracing him. Time passes and they're a little older now. Will has come back to life, but he's getting bullied for coming back to life. Everyone thought he was dead after all. Even worse, everyone has started treating Will as if he's incredibly fragile. Everyone except Mike, of course. He seems to be experiencing some form of PTSD. Whilst the doctors suspect Will may have it, strangely enough, Mike fits the description. He's been lashing out and rebelling at school. Meanwhile, whilst everyone else is just happy to get Will back, Mike is the only one to notice something is wrong. Will has been more quiet than usual. Mike steps into a protective role, physically and mentally. Whenever Will has his episodes, he calls out, and Mike is there, not letting anyone else touch Will, guiding him, wrapping his arm around Will and holding his hand. Sure, he misses the girl, hence why he lashes out at this new girl in his group. But it's just like his sister Nancy and Barb. Everyone is trying to act normal, like nothing has changed, and it's building up. Mike still has Will as his priority, however. We'll go crazy together. As Will's episodes begin to get worse, he's sticking by Will's side. He sleeps beside him, being there with him whenever he can. As Will gets worse, he still refuses to leave Will's side, being at the hospital with him and sleeping there. Mike is one of the very few people Will can still remember. Will is afraid, but Mike makes him feel better. He's a super spy. Even when they're running from danger, he reaches to try and carry Will. When Will is deep in his insanity, everyone tells stories of how they met. Mike retells Will how they met, and how it was the best decision he ever made. Not finding Elle again, meeting Will. Will is saved, but there's something different. At the dance, though the scene is now removed, his eyes watched Mike and Elle dancing, despite the fact he was dancing with a really pretty girl. Something has changed. He has fallen in love with Mike. A distance begins to form between Mike and Will. Mike has spent the entire summer with his new girlfriend, leaving Will behind. Mike begins to form this idea of growing up, how he must move on from being a kid. Meanwhile, Will doesn't. He has been left alone most of the summer. Perhaps Mike becomes so absorbed with this idea of being grown up, he loses his focus on Will. His behavior changes too. He's become rude and a liar. When Elle's dad tells Mike to stay away, instead of speaking to Elle, Mike comes up with an awful lie, that his grandma is sick. Even when he's caught out, he follows this lie. He doesn't want to confront things. To apologize, he asks his friend Lucas on how to fix things. He doesn't think of it for himself. He asks for help. The whole time, Will is sulky. Not only is the boy he loves dating someone else, but he's also completely ignoring him. It's a full 180. Then, there's a confrontation. Mike and Elle break up. Mike looks more disgusted than anything. Sure, he lied, but he feels wrong too. He vents his frustration to his friends about how girls are a different species, not taking accountability at all for any of his actions. Will is reaching his limit. His patience only goes so far. He doesn't understand why they can't move on. He creates a D&D campaign, like they used to play, like they used to be. But it doesn't work. Mike isn't respecting him at all. And so, Will loses it. He's fed up of being cast aside and forgotten. Mike just can't accept it though. He's in denial. He claims nothing he did was wrong, and Will is furious at Mike for just ignoring him until that phrase came out. It's not my fault you don't like girls. Will's trauma from his father, the betrayal, all comes rushing up. And perhaps for Mike, this is his own realization. The issue was never that Mike had a girlfriend. It was that he was neglecting everyone else. When Will brings up a valid point that they don't know where Dustin is, this is his response. He's projecting as if something is beginning to surface that he doesn't want to accept yet. Unlike the prior scene, Mike is devastated. He runs after Will in the rain, begging for forgiveness right out of a rom-com. Meanwhile, Will is destroying Castle Byers, his safe space. Not only does Castle Byers equal his safe space, but it also represents his childhood, his love for Mike, and his queerness. He calls himself stupid, destroying everything as his heart is broken, and Mike finally finds him right as Vecna has come back. The season continues with Mike trying to apologize to Elle and failing miserably at it, which is important for season 4 when he's apologizing to Will. Mike then says he loves Elle, but not to her, just around her. He can't say it to her face. A lot of fights happen, Mind Flayer dead, yada yada yada, but towards the end, Elle and Will are moving to Hawkins. In this scene, Elle says she heard that I love you, says it back and kisses Mike. Yet Mike's expression is blank, thoughtful. He doesn't lean in, doesn't use his hands, just thoughtful. He realizes now that he doesn't love Elle, not in that way. Meanwhile, with Will, they borderline flirt, saying that Will won't join a new party, to which Mike responds with such a look of affection. We then hit season 4, where we have a clear contrast. First, Will is painting a painting for someone he likes. He is hiding it from Elle. Meanwhile, Mike has really become himself again in Hawkins. He's grown his hair out, wearing his Hellfire Club Dungeons & Dragons shirt, loving D&D and just being a complete nerd. He's gotten rid of this desperate need for maturity. With Elle gone, he can be who he is without hiding himself. He doesn't keep Elle's letters, but all of Will's drawings are still under his bed. When he travels all the way to California, he is completely different. It's pointed out that he's wearing fake merchandise he likely bought from the airport. He's clearly hiding his true self now. He realizes that who he really loves is likely Will, and he's doing everything he can to suppress it. This is why, when he reunites with Will, the hug is awkward and he pretends to half ignore him, fixated on the painting. That painting creates the idea that Will is in love with someone else. And whilst he makes himself deny his feelings, he is rather jealous. Will, feeling utterly dejected and like Mike never meant that apology before, screws up the painting. He doesn't understand what's wrong, since in the books it shows that Mike was desperate to speak to Will. Will probably felt like Mike is focusing just on Elle all over again. It's contrasted later though. Despite supposedly ignoring Will, he's been catching all the eye rolls, says he is sulking despite supposedly mostly ignoring him. Later, he blames Elle's lying on Will, saying, "Why didn't Will tell the truth?" They then argue about the fact that Mike didn't call or write to him, but at the very least, Mike has been calling. The line has just always been busy and he's constantly whining. And heck, maybe he did write the letters, just never sent them. When Will calls him back, he has a moment of desperation, of want. Yet he then follows up with the line, "We're friends. We're friends." He emphasizes it as he's convincing himself and convincing Will. We are nothing more. We can't be anything more. Later on, we have another fight with Mike and Elle. This time because Mike can't say "I love you." Instead of taking accountability, Mike blames someone else for saying that he doesn't say "I love you." Sorry, that line still gets me, and every month it's like, why didn't you say "I love you"? Who said that? Who walked up to you and said, "Your boyfriend doesn't say "I love you"? Then, not much later, he has a heart-to-heart with Will, saying something much more romantic than Mike says to Elle this entire season. Hawkins isn't the same without you. Will didn't need to say anything to Mike about his behaviour, because Mike understands. They're so kind, so gentle to each other. Mike begins to confide in Will that he's beginning to question their relationship now, how he feels like he can't communicate with Elle, and later, in the van, he communicates how Elle doesn't really need him anymore. He knows their relationship is ending. He needs someone to need him, and Elle simply isn't that. It's here that Will gives the painting, with Mike in complete awe. He gives his feelings, disguising them as Elle's when they're really his. These words make Mike feel special, feel needed. And they're Will's, not Elle's, regardless of what Mike believes. He loves how Will makes him feel, not Elle. He loves Will. This motivation pushes him to profess his love to Elle when she's in danger, with Will rubbing his back and encouraging him. Perhaps it's his feelings for Will that he projects onto Elle, the love he feels from Will's words forming as love for the wrong person, as Elle is displeased by it. Will now moves to sit in the back of the car, Mike looking confused and hurt, with Elle and Mike next to each other but still not comforting each other. There is a distance now. Mike lied. Elle has begun to ignore Mike now. Finally, Will and Mike have their scene together, with Will bathed in sunlight as Mike sees him as his literal light. Mike convinces Will that they'll make it, kill Vecna, and survive to the end. They end the season together. stood as a pair as Elle begins to move on from them. For the final season, there'll be fights, there'll be tears, there'll likely be death, but there will also be so much love. Friends don't lie, but boyfriends do. In the end, they'll stand united together, fighting for what they believe in. Mike must confront the truth now. After all, since the world is ending, why not be truthful? And that is the end of today's video. I just wanted to give a rough timeline and also just describe the progression rather than just say it came out of the blue. Their love story is one of the best written of all time. So clever and delicate that when it comes canon, yes, when, it's going to be beautiful. Just a quick note, I do also have Instagram now, so feel free to come and join me there and we'll yap about Byler. That's it for today, and remember, the line does not concern itself with Byler doubt.